And we can start with the first presentation, which will be Emily Hinks. And as we saw that it probably takes a great confidence to direct and edit the video with your mind. So Emily is going to talk about the power of creative confidence. Please.
Hello guys, thank you very much for having me here. The first talk of the day, no pressure. And I am not seeing my slides on the screen. There we go. Beautiful technology. I turned up and I was like, okay, it's a Google slide, sorry. Ooh, I use this collaborative tool, can we work with this? There we go. Started. So, my name's Emily, and I am a mischief maker. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that means to be a mischief maker. But first, I'm going to invite you back with me for when I was first telling one of my mentors that I was going to make Mischief Makers, this company. I was like, it's going to be great with this facilitation agency, and we're going to be introducing or leading workshops for organizations to show them the power of creativity, the power of collaboration. It's going to be awesome. He was like, great, Emily, I love it. You can go and do this. And I love the name. It's so smart. I get it. You're a female founder, so you're a mischief. To which I replied, yeah, that was 100% on purpose. Wasn't at all. That was a very happy accident. But what we did mean by mischief makers was this, that we wanted to introduce more play, more creativity, more flair, a bit of je ne sais quoi, basically a bit more of this into the workplace. And what we really wanted to do to bring was to help people connect with and unlock the creative potential within companies, within teams, and most importantly, within individuals. And that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about today, exploring how we can understand and connect with creative potential. Clickety-click. There we go. So, who here woke up this morning like this? Okay, some people. One guy was like, me, I did. Okay, great. Who else, if you're a little bit more like me, woke up like, where am I putting this? Oh, this. Yeah? Yeah, me, cool. Not morning people. Okay, well, then that's good. I'm going to get us through to do a bit of a creative warm-up. Okay, so it is the start of the day. I'd like you to all stand, rise to your feet. Gotta fold those things away, move your laptop, sorry. It's not necessarily an easy exercise, just standing up. Okay, and I would like you to all take this pose with me, otherwise known as the Superwoman Pose. Okay, so this lady, Amy Cuddy, she has one of the most watched TED Talks of all time. And what she talks about is the power that our body has over our minds. So, you know when animals are in like a scary, dangerous situation and they make themselves like really, really big? You know, the cat's tail goes like, whoosh. Yeah? Well, that we still have some of that inbuilt in us, instinctually. That when something scary or stressful happens, if we make ourselves big, then our body naturally makes our brain, lower our cortisol, our stress level, and it pumps up our testosterone, which makes us confident and appear more charming and charismatic. So if you do this just for 3 minutes before you go into a stressful situation, like an interview or talking on stage, and if you do it as well with a smize like this, and a smize as you smile with your eyes, then it also gives you some happy hormones. And so do this before an interview, a scary situation, and you'll walk away and they'll be like, I really like that person and I don't know why. This really has something about them, and you'll walk away like, yeah, nailed it. So thank you, you can sit down. You've given me my extra boost of confidence that I need to go into the rest of this talk. And another disclaimer for you as well, I'm a massive geek. I love researching and exploring and finding all about particularly this field. And so I am going to drop a lot of these kind of TED Talks and speakers and other places that you guys should go and check out, because I want you to leave this talk today with a bit of an understanding about creativity and how it works, maybe some tools and techniques. But I also want you to be able to walk away with some homework, because geeks love homework, right? I'm a geek, I want the homework. And by that I mean that you can go and dive into and explore some more of these studies, because we've only got half an hour together, 25 minutes maybe. So look out for these little things the whole way through. And the reason I'm talking about this as well is because one of my favorite explanations of creativity from and they use this within the book Secrets of Highly Creative People. They say that it's finding connections between two different things. So different talks, different speakers, different pieces of art or things that you encounter, different perspectives and opinions. The ideas or new thoughts or solutions happen when you think about those coming together. And so let's think a little bit more around how we understand creativity, some definitions around it. So this is that first, the boring one, where if you type it in, it comes up in Google. Okay, this is what creativity is. The use of imagination or original ideas to create something, inventiveness. And I really like this bit underneath as well. Firms are keen to encourage creativity. Nice, okay, it's true, but it's a bit blah. Okay? The strange partnership between a human being's labor and the mystery of inspiration. So this is Elizabeth Gilbert, an author. This is a nice one, but again, a bit too poetic and grand for me. Is this the one that we're going to land on? It's not one of my favorites. But this guy, Sir Ken. So to make my designer very happy, I've tried to pick really mischievous pictures of all the people I'm putting up. This is Sir Ken Robinson, and he has been knighted by the Queen in England for his contribution to creativity within the education system. And his definition of creativity is my all-time favorite. But before I tell you guys what that is, I just want to see a show of hands. Raise your hand if you believe that you are creative, if you're one of those creative people. Okay. Nice. A good, almost all, which is what I would hope to see in this type of audience. A few people, maybe I'm not. So I just want to ask you guys to do something for me. Can you just read this poem in your head?
No, make this part out.
That was impressive reading in your head. It's nice with ones like this. I can usually see on people's faces when they're finished. It's like, yeah. It's nice, right? Magic, or maybe imagination. And this is what Sir Ken says that creativity is. It's simply applied imagination. And I think this poem proves, right, that we all have an imagination. If we doubted it before, now it's standing, every human in here has the ability to imagine things. We have, no? Oh, there's a thing. Oh, that would be horrible. Imagine not being able to. Okay, not every single human being, thanks. Most human beings have the ability to imagine. We've all imagined, yelling at someone and after we've had an argument, I should have said this is what I would say, it would go great. Yeah, and Sir Ken says that what we need to do now to inspire more creative confidence, to re-engage people with their creativity, is to just think about ways that we can help them apply that imagination, use it in an active way. So it's not something that's just reserved for poets or painters or people who work in advertising, because they're called creatives. But actually, it's an innate human right that we all have. It's something we're all capable of that we might just got out of the habit of using and exercising as much. But he argues that we really, really should. And this, the original mischief maker, Albert Einstein, his definition of creativity is my second favorite. So creativity is intelligence having fun. Ooh, that feels nice, right? A creative explanation of creativity. And this one really sings true to me because of the way that we work in Mischief Makers, my company. So before we work with a client or a school or anyone that's going to hire us, we kind of give a few disclaimers. And one of the disclaimers is this: don't hire us if you think that seriously awesome results requires serious behavior. And by this we mean that we have experienced time and time and time again that if you have a group of people enjoying themselves, they're laughing, they're smiling, they're feeling positive, optimistic, then the quality of their work, particularly their creative work, rises exponentially. The rate at which they are being creative and creating creative work and ideas and working together greatly improves. Positivity and play, it really kind of breeds, it's a playground for creativity. And we really believe that. So we do a lot of games and energizers, and even when we're working with banks and with corporates and with boards. And once you give people permission to play and you justify it, we're not just playing because we're silly and we're like a cool young startup. We're doing it for a reason. And then when they experience that, then we're all good. So kids, one of the best people in the world for being playful, right? They are the masters of play, creativity, laugh, goofing around. And anyone who has children or siblings or cousins, kids in their family, then they know this condition of, I've given you the best present ever, and all you want to do is play with a box. Yeah? And this is because kids have that real power to see something and look at it and say, okay, what is this? What could it be? What do I want it to be? What am I going to make it into? And we call this exploratory play. And this is something that kids are great at, but we grow out of, are trained out of, this idea to explore different perspectives. Kids are much more open to opportunity, open to the opportunity of anything being something else or looking at it in a different way. And Sir Ken says that one of the reasons that we really need to relook at how we treat creativity within the education system is because in the current one, we're trained out of thinking in lots of different directions. We're trained to think of things in the same way. I'm going to tell you this, you're going to remember it, and you're going to recite it into an exam, and that's the way things are. Yeah, we're trained to think in straight lines, where as children, we're trained to think in this exploratory, kind of different direction way. And I want to give you guys an experience of what I mean by this. And this is just a quick quiz, a game that kids play, and they get this in about 10 seconds. So I want you to look at this, and I want you to tell me what number the car is covering. And when you've got it, put your hand in the air. Nice, good. Some people are getting it. Other people are like, what? What is this? I don't get it. Why don't I get it? All right, we're past the kid threshold. Yep. So this is an exercise in lateral thinking. And lateral thinking is another way, another phrase, a way that we've used to explain creative thinking, thinking in different ways. This is the answer. Ah, yeah, literally looked at it a different way. Yeah. And so this is one of an example of that we not everyone, some people are really getting it, this room of creative people. We are at risk of all starting to just think in these straight lines and in the same way. And arguably that's dangerous, well, it's boring. And arguably it's dangerous and it's bad for business. So there's this quote here from Debussy Iwaki, great name, from the Harvard Business Review, that if you align your strategies to what everyone else is doing, be sure a single business bullet would take you all down. So if we all start to think in the same way, act in the same way, do the same type of work, conform to one another, which we've been told to do throughout education, then it's dangerous, it's bad for business. This isn't something new. We know that creativity is very in vogue at the moment, right? PwC did a study and they showed that 77% of CEOs named creativity as their company's #1 quality shortage. We need more creativity, we want more creative thinkers. According to the World Economic Forum, these are the top 3 qualities to have in 2020. Complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity. I would argue that 1 and 3 are the same thing. Creativity is the ability to look at things, see them differently, come up with solutions and ideas. And so this is great, okay, we're a room here full of creative people, we all put our hands up, we're looking at ways to explore and empower our creative confidence. Creativity also allows us to, robots are coming and taking over the world. Ugh. Creativity is that one that's going to be harder for them to replicate within robots. Okay, so we're getting to many more reasons why it's really important or incentivize why we want to kind of connect with our creativity. David Kelly is also another great person that you should go and check out, the founder of IDEO. He created the D School from Stanford, so helping people connect with human-centered design. And he has a book on creative confidence. He talks about how important it is to take creative confidence, the ability to be creative, to see challenges and problems and opportunities in the world and respond to them, and take that into different fields of work, different industries. So within healthcare, within agriculture, in the third world countries, in areas of the world that need it. If we can empower those people, if we can empower doctors and nurses and health workers to spot or to empathize and see where patients might have a better experience, and then start to think about how they can improve that. If we can bring these people and invite them into sessions with designers and creators and involve their perspective, then the world's going to be a better and stronger place. This is necessary for the world, for us to be able to innovate, for us to be able to move forward. Stephen Johnson argues that the best ideas in the world come from when people from different perspectives and different backgrounds, different ways of thinking, come together over a challenge. They're colliding thoughts, they come together and they bring in their different perspectives. When we look at like cafes in old like bourgeois Paris, you know, with the artistic elite, or when we look at the MIT lab, they bring together a world-class composer, a doctor, a computer scientist, a designer, a musician. They bring them together and they say, okay, here's something that the world needs solving or looking at, dementia. How do we tackle or support people who are struggling with dementia? And by bringing together these different people and empowering them with the ability to apply their imagination and work collaboratively together, this is where they come out with some of the world's greatest innovations or things that are really making the world better. This is how we can help people suffering with dementia with this interactive music experience. So we have justified, hopefully, why it is worth really thinking about empowering people with creative confidence. We've looked at what creativity is, explored some definitions, looked at why it might be important, but now how? Okay, great, cool. We want to be more creative, but how are we going to do that? Because I'm sure you guys have experienced this. I certainly have. Go and be creative. You're like, oh, no, I didn't. What? No, now I can't be. And so we really want to think about how. And I want to give you guys just a moment to think about your creative process. So think about the last time you were creative, the last time you made something, okay? If you've got a piece of paper and a pen in front of you, then try drawing that out. If you've not, then maybe just close your eyes and try and visualize it. What happens when I come up with an idea? What would that look like? What happened last time? Okay? Close your eyes. Or if you're drawing, draw. Okay. So we might have a bit of a vague idea, but it's something that's not easy to do, right? It's reasonably abstract. Well, here is the conclusive. This is what the creative process looks like. This is exactly how it works. Yeah, right? For all the studies and all the things that we've done, we still are relatively don't know that much about how the process of coming up with an idea works. And often because it's really different for each person, right? There's not one right way of being creative or doing creativity or coming up with an idea. But to make it more accessible and to make it more inclusive and to empower people with the ability to work in this way, we have created some processes to bring us onto the same path, to get our noses pointed in the same direction. There are different ones like design thinking, lean startup methodologies, different idea generation techniques. My favorite one is this one, the double diamond. And the reason that this is my favorite one is because it takes you through the steps. Sure, I'm going to go. I've got a problem. I'm going to go out and understand that problem, figure out what makes it that problem. I'm going to decide which area I'm going to focus in on. This is the part of the problem I want to work on. I'm going to come up with a bunch of ideas to solve that problem, explore lots of possibilities. I'm going to test them, make sure that that's right, give you a bit of iteration, and then I'm going to deliver that solution at the end. Okay, kind of step by step. It looks linear. In practice, it actually isn't. But it's a bit of a step-by-step to how this works. The reason it's my favorite, though, is because it's in this shape. And that is indicative of how the creative process works in terms of mindset. So the different kind of parts like this represent the different mindset you need to be in the different stages. So divergent thinking, this part, is where everything is possible. I'm going to go wild. I'm going to think with no limits. I'm exploring opportunities. I'm coming up with loads and loads and loads of different ideas. I'm free thinking. I'm wild. And convergent thinking is, okay, you've got all these amazing ideas. Now, which ones are actually going to stick? Which ones work? Let's synthesize this. Let's refine it. Let's get it to a point where it actually can work in the world. Okay? And these are two very different mindsets, right? If I try and think really critically and start synthesizing things when I'm supposed to be in that divergent phase and coming up with lots, then I'm going to shut down my creativity. But when I'm starting to think about which the best ideas are and which are the strongest, if I'm like, anything's possible, then it's going to be hard to choose, right? And another nice way of thinking about this is that when you're being creative or when you want to put ideas into the world, it's nice to have your head in the clouds, full of possibilities, but your feet in the ground. What's going to really happen and work here? So we're going to talk more today about divergent thinking because that's where the fun, creative, crazy part is. It's my favorite part of the process. And I'm going to talk about how some ways to get you into that thinking. So instead of just go be creative, what are some mindsets can help us do that? Quantity over quality is one of the things that we really champion. Quantity over quality. And this guy, I know it's such a bad standard image, but he just looks real mischievous in this one. And most of his other pictures are like him grumpy, like this. But he talks about the originals, really highly creative or successful people. And he says one of the defining features about them is that they have loads of rubbish ideas. Like so many bad ideas. But they shamelessly keep coming up with them because it higher their chances, it raises the stakes. If I come up with 100 bad ideas, then maybe 50 of them are all right. And maybe 20 of those are good, and maybe 5 of those are killer. If I come up with 3 ideas, there's a good chance that none of them are good. So quantity leads to quality. There's more chance. And also, quantity allows you to get rid of all those rubbish, obvious ideas that everyone else is thinking about first. If I have to think about 20 more, then I really go in that further, deeper direction. So quantity over quality. The next one is letting go of your inhibitions. Okay, so we know kids are really great at creativity and play because they're just going to go throw anything out there. We've learned that you need to, say smart things, say realistic things, don't say stupid things, don't look stupid. But this guy, Charles Lim, he looked at what happens to our brain when we're being highly creative. He put a jazz musician playing jazz into a brain scanner. And what he saw in his brain is that when he was being highly creative, doing some of the really crazy jazz blah, blah, blahs, it shut down the bits in his brain that controlled inhibitions. So self-censorship. When you're like, I'm not going to reach that note's crazy, it's going to sound stupid, that part of his brain was shut off. And so the kind of lesson that we have here is that if we want to be really bold and we want to have that environment mentally or in a workspace where we can be really creative, we can find those big leaps, we need to be okay with looking silly and making mistakes. And how do we exercise that? Because you should see creativity as a muscle. You don't want to go and run a marathon and then never just go for a run around the park first. You don't want to go out and do highly creative exercises without practicing and strengthening that muscle. And one of the ways that you can do that is through play. So remember, we've got, don't hire us if you think seriously awesome work requires serious behavior. It is for a meaning, it's for an action. If you put a team, a corporate team together and they're playing the ninja, or Buzzy Bee, and they look real stupid, but they just get so into the game because they want to win. They stop caring about what they look like, and they start competing with one another and conflicting and challenging and looking stupid. And you get them comfy with the idea of failing and looking silly. And once they're comfy with that, then that starts to feed into their work. I'm going to say something stupid because I'm never going to look as stupid as when I was being a pencil in the game before. Yeah? The last one is yes and, so just the language we use. Again, if we're in divergent thinking, then we want to build up on people's ideas. We want to bring them up, elevate those ideas, not shut them down. So just saying yes and as a rule, when we're in the divergent phase, I'm going to say yes and. I'm going to stop no until we get to the convergent stage. We use brainstorming techniques instead of just saying be creative. We have different techniques like the dark side where we use negative hooks and turn them into positives. We use the mashup where we say, okay, think of human needs and technologies and services. Think of all the different things you can and put together really random connections in order to answer a question. That's a way to kind of trigger making some of those connections and get you being creative. All the different things we can just to introduce this idea of whether we're connecting you with different thoughts, with different practices, with different people. We want to bring those things together and plug in to make strong ideas. So what now? We've spoken about what creativity is, why it's important, how you might start exercising it. But now, leaving here today, what do I want you guys to do? I want you to make friends with your creativity. I want you to think about it, how it works, understand it, and make a connection with it. Elizabeth Gilbert, another little cheeky mischief, she talks about muses. And with her creativity, she says she has to sit down and show up every day and work really hard. Sometimes her creativity comes in, sometimes it doesn't. That's how her creative process works. She spoke to a poet who says, I'm out walking in my field because I'm a poet. And when a poem comes to me, it hits me like a shockwave across the field. And I have to run to get a pencil and write down that poem before it goes. This is my creativity and my creative experience, which is a very poetic way of having a creative experience. But this experience is kind of familiar as well. Sebastian Fox is a great novelist, and he talks about receptive consciousness. So you know those times like just before you go to sleep, or when you're in the shower, or when you're just taking off in a plane, and you kind of got that hazy middle thinking, and then those things, oh, I got the idea, And he says, yeah, usually by the time you've realized it's a good idea or a good thought, it's too late to put it down. And for me, my creative process, when these connections are happening and then pinging in the shower or when I'm on my bike in Amsterdam, I race to get a phone and I voice record it. I'm like, oh, I'm going to forget this later. And I do, because you know, sometimes you're like, that's such a good idea, I'm going to remember it. I'm going to get into work, I'm going to tell everyone about it. Never happens. So I'm like, voice record, blah, blah, blah. Jump out the shower, blah, this is what I'm talking about. And it really helps. Sometimes I very rarely listen back to them, but just the fact that I've articulated it has helped it ground into my mind a little bit. And this is my creative process. I've got to know it over the time, and then I'm comfy with it. It's there and it's stored. And I've got another last bit of great news for you guys. Procrastination is good. Procrastination is powerful. If you store something in your brain as incomplete, if there's something you haven't finished, I'm writing, I can't think, I can't get there, the best thing to do is go for a walk and leave it alone. Go and talk to someone else, go and do something else. Because when things are stored in your brain and you finish them, then they're just like, okay, cool, filed away, we've got that. When you haven't finished them, they sit there in their brain and they like wait for an answer, a connection or something else to come in and feed into it. That's why, you know, you sometimes have those eureka moments, so you come back and you're like, okay, I've got it now. So my advice to you guys really is to make these connections. Go. You're here today to learn. Listen to all of the brilliant things all of these smart people are going to tell you. Store that in. You're getting food for thought, literally food for thought. Walk away and procrastinate. Have a drink. Enjoy your weekend. Let those connections happen. Use techniques. Use creative techniques. Talk with other people that have been here. Go and tell your colleagues about it. Practice, play with your colleagues, because for sure we might not be in the MIT lab, but we're all going back to workplaces, to our lives where we've got challenges we're facing. Pull in these different perspectives and help yourself unlock the power of your creative potential, or the power of creativity within your teams, within yourself. Add a little bit of mischief. Thank you very much.